So guys, behind me is my AMG GT, which I bought for very cheap, and it was in terrible condition. It's still in terrible condition. When my old friend told me that this car was sitting at his house that he sold, he wants me to go pick it up. Well, that didn't work out. He sent it to the dealership. The dealership said that he needed to spend $100,000 to put a new engine in this car. It was that bad. I didn't believe that. I had them drop the car off over here to the HQ. We put the car in the rack, we drained the fluids, we pulled the engine out of it, and the engine was completely full of water. The worst I have ever seen. It overheated so badly that every single cylinder was full to the brim with water. And this is what we're left with. So this is what remains of the heart of the AMG GT. This block, this 4-liter twin turbo block, it is literally rusted and corroded. It looks terrible. I didn't think that it was savable, honestly. I've done a lot of engine rebuilds in my life. I've never seen an engine that has overheated as badly as this one has. But there may be hope, and that is Premier Tuning Group that's in Southern California, and they're an AMG specialist. They hit me up and they said they think that they can save this engine, possibly can rebuild it, sleeve it, build this engine into what was my goal, and that is 1,000 horsepower to the wheels AMG GT. So we're not gonna waste any time. We're gonna get this engine loaded up and we're gonna get it over to the guys at Premier Tuning Group to see if there's a chance that they can save this engine.
Wait, but what if they say that it's unsavable?
Anything's possible, probably.
The last of it?
Nope, there's more. A lot of parts that came off of this car.
Okay, surely that's the last of it, right?
Oh, there's more.
What are you saying?
There's more.
What else is there?
We still got the turbos. I am planning on upgrading the turbos, but they might need a lot of parts off of the outside. So we're gonna bring everything with us, give them everything, and they can say, no, we don't need this, we don't need this. But I'd rather have everything and not have to make another trip back here, because it is an hour away. We'll bring everything for the car except the car and the transmission.
Everything.
Everything. I love this thing. So good. I mean, this is literally how we took the engine out of the car too. 2 of these, one in the transmission, one in the engine. We lowered the whole thing down. So handy. And I've done like, I don't even know how many Porsches. So we've got the engine and all the components loaded up. Now let's head over to PTG, and I hope that they can salvage this engine, because that's the real goal with this car, is to build the engine into a crazy high horsepower engine. I don't want to just buy a stock engine and drop it in this thing. So fingers crossed that they're able to make it happen. So I've had a lot of cars over the years. I've had some street cars and I've had a bunch of race cars, but I haven't had a really cool street car in a long time. The last time I had a really cool street car was probably 15 years ago, maybe even longer than that. It was an RX-7, an FD, right-hand drive that I built. I loved that car, but it was just a pain to drive on the street being right-hand drive. Here in the States, it just was always difficult to drive around. But I've always loved that kind of body style with a front engine, rear-wheel drive car, everything back to my first car that I ever had, which was a Datsun, a 240Z. I loved that car, and I still want another one, but I don't know if it's gonna be the same going back to when I had it when I was 17. But now, something like this GT is really kind of where my heart is set. Big horsepower, V8, twin turbo, front engine, rear drive, but that long nose, that coupe styling that goes back to probably the 60s, right? Just that body style has always been kind of like the ideal look for a car for me. And that's one of the reasons that I'm so excited about getting this AMG GT back together. Not just rebuild it to stock, proper components in here that's gonna allow us to make that 1,000 horsepower, that goal that I have. I need to hit that. It's a number, yeah, but it's also how the car drives. I've driven all of these cars with so much power. Like my drift car has 1,100 horsepower at the wheels. And I'm not gonna say I'm spoiled, but once you drive something like that and you get used to that amount of power, everything else feels slower. And it's a crazy problem to have, but it's a real problem that I have.
Hey guys, quick interruption to thank our sponsor, BetterHelp. I'm currently in Virginia, and I was reading some comments earlier today from our last promo with this company, and it was honestly really surprising how many people are feeling more safe to open up about the challenges they've been through. Whether you've been through a divorce, the loss of a child. I've read so many stories, people battling illness. Forget sometimes we get distracted by the glitz and glam of the distractions of our life to really understand what matters, and when we have these problems in the way, sometimes we just need some help to figure out how to get to the solution. I know I've been through this. I've shared before. Through my divorces, the challenges in my life, to losing loved ones, and having someone to talk to that you can trust, an unbiased opinion to help you through it. What I love is people are opening up way more now than ever about mental health. It used to be a faux pas. There's still some people watching, probably maybe even you right now at home, thinking, well, if I ask for help, does that mean I need help? No. It just means you're not alone. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who's trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. Unbiased is key. First step right now, click the link in the description, go to betterhelp.com/GTE and fill out the free questionnaire. Use the link below, answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match a professional who has years of experience, helping people with struggles just like your own. The best part, you can do it from your phone, computer, there's a messaging service, you can call them, video chat. There's tons of options. We're all very unique in how we like to communicate. For me, it's definitely messaging. Once you fill out your questionnaire, you'll normally be matched with a therapist within 48 hours. So that's it. Really simple, you guys. Click the link in the description. Go to betterhelp.com/GD right now. You get a special deal in your first month. I know you'll feel better after you've had your first conversation. And it literally feels like weight lifted off your shoulders. And I love reading the stories. Now, you don't have to share. I'm not asking you guys to share below, but I've read a lot of comments sharing how it's helped you. And that makes me really happy. Thanks, BetterHelp, for sponsoring the video. And back to the vlog.
Looks like we may have arrived.
I don't know. Looks like a lumber yard over here.
Possibly.
Maybe the white building?
Maybe, yeah, I see a Mercedes. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep. There it is.
There it is.
Yeah. We've arrived.
What do you think about this, Mike?
This one runs. Mine doesn't. I'm jealous.
What do we have here?
6x6. These things are pretty rad.
Never seen one in real life before.
Oh, really?
That's pretty insane.
Barely fit in the frame. Look at that.
Hey, Steve.
Nice to see you, man.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for trying to help us out with this project.
Definitely.
Yeah, we've got all of the parts in the back of the truck, but before we get all that stuff unloaded, maybe we could give us a
Yeah,
tour.
definitely. Come on in, guys.
Yeah.
Come on in.
Like when we pulled up in the parking lot and I saw the lineup of AMGs, I was like,
this is like the only
we're in the
place in
right
the
place.
world where we only work on AMGs. There is a Mustang in here though, so just ignore that.
all right,
We'll
I
talk
know
about
there's
that
always,
later.
dude, every shop there's always like one kind of oddball
yeah,
car,
one
right?
oddball, one weird thing going on.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, we do a lot of stuff with Mercedes. We're kind of like the A to Z one-stop. So we do a lot of engine parts, which will come in handy for you.
Yeah.
We make turbos, fuel systems, a lot of tuning solutions. So we've been developing for like 20 years on just this platform.
Yeah.
So we're at the forefront of it, and this shop is kind of like our R&D shop / sub-assembly. We do a lot of machining for things, and we're pretty deep into it.
Honestly, I hadn't heard of you guys before because I've never really been into the AMG scene. So you guys all know that I'm a big BMW guy and Porsche guy. This is kind of like my first step into the AMG world.
Yeah.
I looked you guys up and I saw all the stuff you were doing and I was like, all right, I really get what these guys are doing. They're not trying to do every single kind of car.
Yeah.
You're focusing on one brand and
Correct.
trying to make the best products that you can.
Correct.
that.
It's a major focus. Mercedes in general, like compared to BMW does have a lot of community support. There's so many people doing it.
Yeah.
Especially with now the Toyota being BMW thing,
Yep,
right? So
exactly.
a lot of import tuners came in, and it became really big.
Yep.
With Mercedes, it's still kind of pretty infant. And again, we're at the forefront of not only the parts but the tuning.
Yep.
A lot of pressure's on us to do really good. These cars got to go fast because of us.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do, or sometimes they don't.
Yep.
And it's really on our shoulders to make it go fast. When we see something that kind of is hindering the performance, we're diving so deep into it.
Yep.
Whether
You're
it's-
not letting it like a roadblock stop you.
No.
You're finding a way to solve an issue and continue the development.
Correct. And like we'll walk through it, and I'll show you guys some of the stuff we do, like from fuel systems to transmission parts. It's not just for like the M177/178 platform. There's superchargers on the bench, which you guys will see for like the older 156s.
Yeah.
And these are all learnings for me and the team over the past 15, 20 years of like, hey, what works on these, what doesn't.
Yep.
Obviously blowing things up, like
Yep.
that's what we do.
Yep.
We have to do that for it to get further and further.
You push the limit, you find the failure points,
Correct.
and you figure out solutions for those failures.
Correct. We give the customer, honestly, a pretty A to Z solution. Hey, if you want to make 1,500 horsepower,
Here's
we
the
got
package to
everything
do it.
for it.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, just looking over here, and seeing like engines at different stages of completion. Obviously, you've got superchargers that are being assembled.
Correct. And I know yours was, we got to see it still, and hopefully we can fix it.
I hope so. I know that like
it's a lot of rust in the bores, so that's like the worst thing you can see with these engines.
Yep.
But we do have solutions for it, so hopefully we can solve that problem. And we have an example of one here.
So yeah, this is a sleeve block. Is this the same block that is in the GT?
We always have on deck M177 and 178 cores.
Okay.
I'll show you the difference between 177 and 178. I want everyone to know.
Yeah, I haven't been able to figure out the difference either. So
in essence, 90 millimeter on center bores, same piston, same rod, same crank.
Yep.
Effectively the same block. But because the 178's a dry sump, we need a 178 block.
Yeah.
There are internal differences. I'll flip this over. The windows inside there.
Okay.
In the passage here where my finger's sticking through. Those are all blocked off on the 178 to allow the dry sump to work properly.
Oh, got it.
Otherwise it wouldn't scavenge.
Yeah.
You can always constantly have like PCV going on.
Yeah, okay.
That's the difference between 177 and 178 in essence. But this is a Darton sleeved 177 block that's ready to be built, and it's extremely beautiful, of course.
I mean, it looks great.
Yeah.
The sleeves look really good. So a lot of strength has been added to this block with those sleeves.
Yeah, a lot of strength. There is a whole pressure test system for these. We don't want these to have issues on the field. That's the big one.
Yeah.
So we reiterated the sleeve design with Darton like 5 times. We pressure test the blocks. We even put them in a heat cycle in our carbon fiber oven. Like we go above and beyond to make sure this is like gonna work for you years.
You don't assemble the whole thing and then a couple years down the line go, we missed something. Yeah, so you actually do all the testing before you assemble the engine.
Correct. So we have a whole pressure test jig for these. We have plates that we bolt on. You can actually see the outline of it.
Yep.
And yeah, we pretty much go all out, and then we do a final bore. In this case, you're running our CP Carrillo setup.
Yeah.
When we do the final bore, obviously we want the clearances to be perfect.
Yep.
So we use that actual piston setup, and we do a final bore, and we punch them out to be like exactly what they need to be.
So the proper tolerances in every single cylinder.
Correct. You know, we do CNC ported heads. We have valves for these. Man, we take these far. We actually do take them far.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you guys were the only company that I saw that actually made parts specifically for these engines. So it's a CP and Carrillo combination, just like we're putting in the F12, but every rod and every piston is different, and you guys worked with CP to develop these parts to exactly what you needed.
We've developed the 177 probably since 2014, I want to say, and we have our own custom I-beam rod with them. So they made a forging for us for the piston and rod, like specifically for this, which would be different if you called and said I want one. They would use like an off-the-shelf forging. Piston would typically be a little bit heavier or whatever the case may be, but it's specific for this. Sunk that cost 10 years ago to have like the right setup for these. But what you're getting is a special forging, a special rod forging. And it's really nice.
Something that's been tested. It's tried and true. It's not like, put these in and see how it works.
Exactly. And like if you like kind of scroll around like some of the things we do with these cars, obviously going fast is the end result. And that's our goal. But like we've gone really, especially with the GTs, we've gone like really fast with these cars for what they are. To get them like in the 360 to 130, you're making like 1500, 1600 horsepower. So we got them down. They're pretty good.
So good. My goal is the 1000 horsepower. So it sounds like you guys are well beyond that.
Well beyond that.
So yeah, I'm hoping that the block is salvageable and we can get that.
All this is fun to talk about. We got to make sure what you have is good so we can have a good core. Otherwise, you're going to be spending 25 grand on a core engine. So
I don't want to do that. I do not want to do that.
We're here to save you.
All right, so I brought pretty much everything.
That's a lot of parts.
Grab it all.
Yeah. Have you tried rotating the engine, by the way?
We did. We cranked it over before we pulled it all apart.
Okay. It actually did crank.
It did crank.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fairly good news.
It's a crusty, rusty looking block right now.
We'll get it.
Yeah.
I think we'll get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see what it looks like.
Probably the worst high performance engine I've ever seen. I've seen some stuff in like old like Chevy 350s or something that were rusted to junk, but not an AMG aluminum block motor. I've never seen anything like this. I'm looking at it like, is this even a part that goes on? Like, is this more of a chassis part? No, I think this does go crossover in the back. I'm trying to remember where all these parts went.
It'll clean up very well, actually, this one.
Yeah.
Like, very well.
You just bead blast everything and then...
I'll pop a head out, because we CNC port the chamber.
Yeah.
It'll just remove
okay, so you'll actually machine the...
We'll put two of them next to each other, you'll see what it looks. It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
It looks absolutely amazing.
Oh, man, I'm getting excited. Well, ours does not look as good as that one yet. We're hoping that these guys can save this completely trashed block and turn it into a 1,000 horsepower engine, which is not an easy feat.
It's not supposed to look like that, guys. It's looking pretty rough, but I think we can definitely repair this.
Yeah.
Obviously, water was sitting here for quite some time.
Years.
Years. Wow. Mercedes doesn't rebuild these.
Yeah, they would take it out and put a brand new one in.
Actually, just recently, they now offer a block with 8 pistons because you have to do the final bore of the pistons, like we talked about.
Yep.
And it's like $26,000 retail just for the block
Just
and
the
8
block.
pistons. Yeah.
Wow.
$26,000.
Yeah.
When you get water in here, these are done.
Yeah,
that bore is done.
Yeah, and you can see on the top here also where the head gasket lifted, right? So the space where the water was going through into the cylinders, it is just an absolute mess. So yeah, I'm hoping that the decks are not so warped that you'd have to cut off too much material, which would make them unusable.
So we can control that as long as it's, like you said, it's not totally warped. But if we do have to cut off a little more, there is obviously a maximum
tolerance that you can go. Yeah,
we can control your final compression with the CNC port on the head.
Okay.
You can take out a little bit of material there to compensate for your deck going down.
Got
if we absolutely had
if
to.
you have to.
If we have to. Yeah, this thing's, it's got rat poop all over it.
Yeah,
It's
that
nice.
was the other thing. Yeah, there were also rats living in it.
Rats living here.
Yep.
It's good.
Yep.
Good stuff.
So we still have to inspect the entire car and just check all the wiring in the car.
Harness,
make sure that the rats didn't get anything else.
Can we try to turn it right now?
We can try to turn it.
That'll tell us if the $7,000 crankshaft is good or not.
Did you even know it was $7,000?
I did not know it was $7,000.
Hold it? Yeah. There we go. Oh, it does turn. Oh, it turns nice.
There's something in it.
It turns good.
It turns.
So let me just stick this piston all the way. Okay, where's that bottom dead over there? That's not horrible. Yeah, I think we're in good shape, Mike. I think we're in good shape.
We're in good shape.
Yeah, I've seen worse.
It doesn't look good, but
No, it doesn't look
I'm gonna
good,
take your word for it.
I've seen much worse than this.
That's crazy. I mean, I've seen a lot of terrible engines like that were blown up, right? But this is the worst engine that I've seen from just overheating.
Yeah.
This
definitely.
is.
Well, he was putting water in there. All the coolant was gone.
Yep.
And just throwing water in there, and that's what all this is.
Yeah.
So I'm sure if a little bit of coolant was in there, it would have like prolonged the rusting process.
Yeah.
He could have just drained the coolant, and none of this would have happened.
He is not a car guy.
Yeah.
He does not know anything. He was literally like, I don't know why, it just shut off and won't start anymore.
Yeah. Cool. Here you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Cool.
Awesome. Well, I'm pumped to hear that there is a chance that it's salvageable because all these numbers are making my head hurt. How much it's going to cost for a donor block or a crankshaft or any of the other parts. So I'm going to keep hoping that everything's okay and you guys can save it. But I'm looking over here and I'm seeing all these cool parts and I want to. Those are the turbos that.
So those are our bigger turbos. I'll show you the thousands as well. I don't know if you guys saw this, but we're partnering with Garrett. So all the internals are Garrett. We'll show you a bunch of Garrett stuff like that go along with it. It's really nice. And yeah, we have obviously. I'll show you a set of heads what it's gonna look like.
Oh yeah.
Literally like a head that, your head ends up looking like that.
That was big enough for you, Mike?
It's jewelry over here. Checking all this stuff out.
So this is like our X, based on like a GTX 35 wheel and 82. These are good for like 1300 wheel, 1400 wheel. And then like this is one of our Garrett 1000 cartridges. Is gonna go in your car actually.
Yeah.
That's the guy.
Those are nice.
Yeah,
Those are
they're
so
pretty.
much bigger than the factory turbos.
They're bigger. These are ball bearing. The factory turbo is not ball bearing.
Yeah.
So you obviously you go bigger, you get a little more lag. That's just the way physics are.
Yep.
But we are combating that with a really good ball bearing turbo that's going to bring you closer to that factory range.
Yeah.
Stock turbo is good for like 550, 560.
Yeah, and also like just the power band with the stock turbos, it's all in, and then it's so flat and falls off.
Correct.
At the top end.
Correct.
Which
in a sense, and I'll say this out loud. This is what I tell every customer. Like when you tune these cars, like stage two, right? Like tune and downpipe, or just a tune. Their peak power is really like 5,500 RPM, and they rev to 7+, right?
Yeah.
So the feeling and what you get is not that inspirational from the car, although the dyno might show it.
Yep.
And really just a small turbo change. You don't even have to go this big if you didn't want to, but even a small turbo change shifts that power band all the way to redline.
Yeah.
And even though you're making the same power at redline, the car is going to be way faster.
Yeah.
So
it just allows it to breathe, right? You get
Exactly.
that exhaust out, you get more air in.
Exactly. And the tunability is challenging on those small turbos, especially on 91 octane out here.
Yeah.
You got to do a lot to combat detonation, and if you're running cats, it's obviously
high intake
everybody
temps.
runs cats in California, but it's challenging. It becomes a challenge. So
Size comparison for everyone to see the difference between these turbos, which is absolutely
we'll kind of
massive.
we'll lay it the same way.
So you guys are actually casting your own housings to fit the bigger
Correct.
turbo centers into.
Again, we're probably among the only that actually do, like, we cover all the AMGs. So as we talked about earlier, it's 2 different housings.
Yeah.
But in this case right here, we've optimized and designed around that Garrett CHRA that we use, and you know, obviously new castings.
Yep.
What a lot of people do is actually modify the factory turbos.
Yeah, they'll bore them out.
They'll bore them out. You know, whether there's something wrong or right with that, that's a different discussion.
It's a different approach completely.
Yeah, we do know that like driving the RPM that high on the turbo, you want a stronger shaft, and the only way to get that is to run a new CHRA, and you got to build housings around it. So, like, that's our approach. We're sticking with it, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
This is the end result.
It.
Yeah.
Factory is like, you know, I got 2 fingers in there, and this is like 2 fingers on one side. It's almost double the size on that compressor wheel alone. So
yeah, and they bolt up. You know, if you actually look at it sitting up like this, you kind of see it a little better. They literally bolt up the same way.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we packaged in that tight little V, which you know really well now.
Yep.
We packaged these big turbos in that spot. They're awesome, man. These are probably one of our best sellers.
Yeah.
They're easy to install too. They take hours, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's right there in the middle.
Yeah.
Easy to access.
Correct.
That's very cool. And then I've been staring at this the whole time. That CNC ported head over there.
Yeah, so we talked about that. I brought a head out. That's what it looks like when it's done. So we completely clean up and optimize the chambers. Obviously, there's a bit of studying that goes on what to do here.
Yeah, that's real science.
Yeah, it actually is. It's very challenging to get this right.
Yeah.
Literally cut heads apart to really, you know, analyze the flow.
Yep, and you have to, so not only are you trying to optimize the flow and the combustion chamber and all this stuff, but you also need to worry about how thick the material is behind here. How much can you cut off safely? How thick are the intake ports before the water jackets come into place?
Correct.
So there's all these things you're kind of like working around. So you guys will actually split them and cut them in different ways and see how thick it is.
Yeah, because there's it's a direct injection, so the injector hole is right there and your spark plug's there. There is coolant flowing between those to cool that area down.
Yeah.
If you go too far in the CNC port, you will pierce through.
Yep.
So that's why we had to cut them apart and really make sure we don't have problems in the field once again.
Look at the exhaust ports.
Yeah, so
that's a thing of beauty.
That's the exhaust port. That's
the intake ports.
Beautiful intake port.
Those have to flow so much more air than the factory ones.
Yeah, they do. They definitely do. These are beautiful. You know, Mike, now that I think about it, there is a car outside that is almost exactly your setup when you're done.
That GT that we walked past me.
But except that thing runs. Doesn't have a fountain coming out of it.
Yeah, well, a little different than mine at the
Yeah, we should start and run that thing a little bit, make you hear it, just so you can start building up the energy and the courage to get this right.
Yeah.
This setup is effectively what Mike will get. This is the stock motor, however, and again, like we discussed, the engines from the factory can handle big power. Yeah. But yours.
But mine.
Yours is
Mike
not good.
Can't even handle 1 horsepower.
At this point. Yours, you're pushing it. So, but we're gonna build it. It's gonna be just like this thing. It's gonna be real nice. So we'll give it a start. We'll give Mike what he hopefully will get in like a month. So
yeah. Wow. All right. So this looks completely different. For one, there's no rat poop or anything like that. But
that's new. Yeah.
But you've got the carbon fiber inlets. I can see that you got the PTG 1000 turbos in there.
You can see these are our inlets. This is our PTG 1000 turbos. It's got our fuel pumps on it. So this thing's making like a healthy 850 wheel.
Yeah.
On like an E30 blend.
So a bit of ethanol in it.
Yeah, so we throw a little bit of ethanol for the octane. Fuel pumps can handle it. Our tune adjusts for it.
Yep.
And we do have, which I'll give you when the car's running, on the fly map switch. So through your phone, you can switch maps if you want to go pump gas, E30.
Oh wow, that's
gas.
awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get it to like the safe limit of whatever parts you have.
Yeah.
And you can play around with 4 tunes. It's pretty cool actually.
Yeah, that's great. So I mean, obviously trying to make 1,000 horsepower wheel on pump gas is just not going to happen.
No, it just won't. Like what people want to think, let them think what they want to think.
Yeah.
But I got news for you, YouTube. Like, it's not going to do it. 4 liters and 91 octane are like max 720 wheel, no matter what you got, really.
Yeah. But being able to switch that between the maps. So if you're on a rally or driving around or whatever,
correct,
you can run pump gas.
Correct.
And then if you want to go fast, you can switch the map, put some ethanol in it.
Exactly.
You build the engine, you do all these upgrades, and then you're kind of limited, like you said, to about 700 on pump gas. And then it's like, all right, so do I build this into where it just runs on E85, or you have to always have a 50-50 blend or whatever it might be? It's a hassle, and I don't want this car to be like that. I want to drive this car every day. And no matter where I'm going or what I'm doing, if I'm going to do some track events or a rally or, take it down the drag strip or whatever.
And the best thing is you can hand the keys to somebody and say, here, drive the car, like whatever you put in it. These are the maps, You can switch it yourself before they take it.
Turn it down.
Yeah.
Before David drives it, I'll turn it down.
Yeah, let's start this thing up. Let's have Mike hear it.
All right, let's hear this beast. This is wild. This sounds like, I don't know if the sound's coming across, but
You guys want me to shut it off?
yeah. It is like, there's so much technology in this, but it still has that kind of like American muscle, just that raw V8 sound to it.
Yeah, they do.
Man, I love it. It sounds so grunty, but then you give it that blip of throttle and you hear the turbos and the intakes, like,
Yeah.
whoo, it's mean.
No, these things are cool, man. They're cool. Again, it's like this little niche with the Mercedes AMG thing,
Yeah,
but these are beautiful cars.
Yeah,
they really
they-
are.
they
and
really
then they
are.
drive unbelievable. The GT, the C190 chassis,
yeah.
it's one of the best cars to drive. So
Yeah, so I've driven a completely stock one, and then I've driven the race car version, the GT4 race car version.
Okay, so you got a good taste for it.
Yeah, kind of like both levels, right?
Right.
And I'm like, my goal with this car is to build it to 1,000 horsepower, do some suspension, do a wide body kit, wheels, some aero, all that kind of stuff on it, and just have like an absolutely insane driver.
Yeah, and honestly, the GT4 parts, I don't know if you're aware of this, a lot of them bolt onto this like real easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like all the suspension stuff. Like,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Pretty straightforward.
I need to find some of those. You guys know any about any
I'll hook
AMG
you up, Mike.
GT?
I'll hook you up, Mike.
Oh, there you go.
Got some guys? All right.
Yeah, I got connections.
Now, what is the next step to get to this?
It's going to be a pretty comprehensive thing. We got to 100% verify that block is good. We're going to dissect that thing, make sure the crankshaft's good. We're going to polish the crankshaft. We're going to mic the crankshaft, magnaflux it also. And then from there we balance pistons, rods, crank. We do have a core block for you once we know that's good, just to shorten the time frame. So
Awesome.
we'll give you the core,
Yeah.
and we'll take yours in exchange. And then we start the build process. Like I said, it's gonna take about a month to build it all.
Yep.
We'll send the heads off to get CNC ported. I'd like to use your heads for that, because the 178 head is slightly different, although not much. We're gonna build the engine, and then it goes back to you guys.
Yeah.
You're gonna put it in the car. You're gonna hand you some turbos, some good, some good bits.
Yep.
And then from there, we'll probably come to you. You're not far.
Yeah.
And we'll do the tuning there, or we can also do it remotely. I mean, it's not hard. And from there, she'll be running, man.
Yeah.
I think by like mid to late June, this thing will be running.
Summer car.
Summer
Oh
car.
yeah, here we go.
Yeah, get the AC freon ready, man.
Hell
You
yeah,
got one
yeah,
of
we gotta
those,
charge
right?
that
All right,
thing
you gotta
up.
charge that thing up. Yep.
Just noticed that these are not pointing in the correct direction. So we've got the fuel injector right here, and this should be 180 degrees, so the spark is not shielded by this, but it's actually sparking right at where the fuel is. So that's backwards. That one's off. That one's like 90 degrees off.
That one's almost in the OK range.
Almost, at least it's pointing where the spark can reach the fuel, but that's 180
Yeah,
degrees off.
all three of these are like definitely not good. It's got a factory Mercedes plug in it. So somebody put, like, these are indexable
Yeah.
from the factory. So someone just put them in wrong. Small things to look at, just try to, I don't know, figure out what happened, right?
No, exactly, and that's kind of the mystery, is why did it overheat? We couldn't find any broken hoses. We couldn't find a water leak. So that's, hey, easy, right? Oh, blew a radiator hose, cracked or whatever when it went off, dumped the coolant out. That's why it was overheating. But we haven't found anything like that. So just going through and kind of looking at every single possibility or anything that you see that might be out of place and trying to figure out why it overheated. Because if we do all of this and we build this engine and we put this in the car with all these upgrades and then it overheats again, I'm literally going to cry.
Mike, thanks for coming.
Thank you so
You're
much.
in good hands. We'll get this thing taken care of.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And then just hearing that GT outside and knowing that's still a stock engine, man, I cannot wait to get this back.
This thing's gonna be brilliant.
Oh,
It will be
man.
brilliant. I'm excited for you.
So excited. I haven't had a cool street car in so long.
And this is a
all of
Mercedes.
these race cars,
Yeah.
but I haven't had a cool street car.
I'm excited for you, man. I'm
Thank
glad it's with us.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, sir.
All right, man. We'll talk
Yeah,
soon.
Thank you, guys.